Good day. The cape, the mask, the superhero, ladies and gentlemen. Love them or hate them, they have been part of the popular consciousness since the late 1930s. They started out dark, got derpy but endearing, got cool, got dark again, and finally got to be a mixture of all that had come before. It's hard to find someone who isn't a complete misery guts that doesn't like them some good superheroics now and again. For me, I love the 90s animated shows and a few of the live-action movies, along with the entire modern-day DC animated film library. I never personally got into superhero comics, though. I read a few, and I do quite like the Elseworlds or What Ifs, but I would never read Batman 245 to Batman 484, as I just don't care about superheroics all that much. I generally just find the superhero concept to be bland. For a time, I did get into the emo superhero comics. You know the ones. The Authority, Black Summer, The Boys, and others. These comics got really popular in the early 2000s and brought new readers in droves to their dark, edgy concepts. Superheroes are the real bad guys. Life is pain. Nothing but pain, man. And New Year's Day is totally a good band, man. The biggest problem with all the edgy superhero stuff was the fact that they all felt like writer mouthpieces to me. They never really showed the dichotomy of good and evil and just went with the rather pedestrian concept of everyone is evil, man. Enter that guy with the teacup, Mr. Christopher G. Nuttall. He has the special sauce to make a realistic take on superheroes not only be fun, but serious, without breaking out the New Year's Day CDs. Team Omega. This novel was first released in 2015, and in the author's foreword, Nuttall states that this book was inspired by all those edgy comics that I mentioned at the beginning of this video. He felt he could do a better job and create a world that makes more sense. Does he succeed? Well, let's flip her open, giggity, and find out. The world of Team Omega is a superhero world. The rules of this world mirror that of the X-Men. Usually at puberty, a person has a chance of sparking, as it is known, and gaining superhero powers. This happens during times of great emotional distress, somewhat similar in concept to the Highlander. Humanity does not know how or why this happens, and Nuttall throws in a shout-out to the edgelord comic Uber for a potential reason why people get superpowers. The power distribution is also completely random, like in the X-Men. Some get superhuman powers, and some might get the shaft and turn into mutants. Mutants are like the Morlocks in X-Men. They are usually deformed in some way, and are also weaker than non-deformed superhumans, and due to this, they are hated and feared by society. The non-deformed superhumans are usually treated like celebrities. They have their own agents, and the like. The novel also makes mention of supervillains, but they do not put in an appearance. The novel concerns the actions of Hope, a guy that is totally not Superman, but of course has all his powers and similar personality. Fans of The Boys might think that he is inspired by the evil Superman of that comic/show. Hope is blonde and attractive and very famous, but unlike in the edgy comics, he is actually a complete good guy. Next, we have a U.S. Marine named McDougal. He is a reasonable Marine, and he was able to take on a rampaging superhuman that was tearing up his barracks. He lured the super strong superhuman into a gas chamber where Marines have to get a whiff of tear gas as part of their training. McDougal figured that the bastard had to breathe, right? And thus, old McDougal asphyxiates the cretin. This impresses his superiors enough to get him transferred to the super secret team, Omega, a team charged with taking down rogue superhumans. They are not like the boys. They don't just go out and kill any old superhuman. They try to recruit some superhumans into the government, and even when they have to kill a superhuman, they have to keep that killing quiet because the superhumans in this universe are still human. That is the main cornerstone of this novel. A guy with super strength and invulnerability is still human, and is still subject to all the psychological issues of a human, and like any good human, a superhuman will still act tribal, and thus the 5,000 strong superhuman community is steadily becoming their own subculture of humanity. Uh-oh. If the government is seen as being harsh to the Capes, the government fears that the Capes will turn on humanity as a whole and attack. So Team Omega has to keep everything as hush-hush as possible, so as not to cause a rift to form between humans and supers. Hope is tired of the screaming. He is tired of not being able to help save people or do anything to save society. He has taken out numerous drug lords just for them to pop up again and again. He is tired of not being able to be the hero he wants to be. So he, along with the Not Justice League, plan to liberate the Congo from the warlords and give their people a chance at freedom. Ant boot. Hope and the Justice League take down the Congo warlords and establish a new state. That should be good, right? You didn't think it was going to be that easy, did you? The Congo is in shambles and the world is equal parts elated and terrified. The Capes just took over a country. The world is happy that those people are freed, but fear the Capes are coming for them next. This is a Nuttall book, remember? So you know it's gonna get worse. Hope saved a girl from being raped by the warlord, but she is later killed by her own parents for being defiled. Congo, remember? This pisses off Hope to no end, and he ends up crushing the skulls of that family on live TV. This does not placate the world at all, as it just shows that Hope is going to be more and more brutal as time goes on. Meanwhile, in McDougal Land, Team Omega goes on a few day-in-the-life missions, including a really creepy one where they have to take down an evil pop star. Hope just gets worse and worse as the novel goes along and eventually sets his X-ray vision on the United States itself. Will Team Omega have big enough bat bolos to take on Superman and the Justice League? Well, you'll just have to read it to find out. This is some Alpha Prime stuff right here. You got concise writing, you have a good number of high-quality characters, you have a few rollicking adventures interspersed with the main plot, and it's all wrapped up in 440 pages. This novel has that signature Nuttall grayness. The Capes are not evil, and Team Omega are not evil, and it will be up to the reader to determine which side is right. This was a 3 o'clock read to be certain, and once you get hooked, you won't want to stop reading. And so, I'm GeneralLotz, wishing you good Truce at Bakura and good Aliens the Female War, whatever makes you happy. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing, and if you can, please consider supporting me on Patreon so that I can continue bringing you this great content. Alright, this book gets completely insane. Hope goes fucking nuts and blows apart Libya and kills Gaddafi and leaves that nation in ruins. Then someone kills a few Capes in the Congo and Hope blames the US and then invades America. Team Omega is almost wiped out due to Hope having a telepath read the mind of a high-ranking general. Team Omega does get a superhero on their side, the original Superman of this universe, the Fireman. The Fireman fights Hope, and during their battle, they fight a few miles outside of the city of Las Vegas, and the sheer seismic shock of their fight devastates the entire city. Eventually, it's determined that Hope was manipulated all along by a telepath. I thought this was a bit of a cop-out, as I would have preferred Hope to have simply been doing all of this of his own volition, as it would have made the book that much more gray. The whole "it was the evil telepath all along" just feels very cheap, and really cheapens the character development that Hope gets throughout the entire novel. The Fireman is knocked out, and it's up to McDougal to use the Deus Ex Machina cannon to put down Hope once and for all, and the story ends with the world picking up the pieces and trying to cope with more active superheroes and how to deal with the post-Hope world. There is a bit of an upbeat note to the ending though, and it's up to the reader whether or not the ending is happy or not.